Hey everyone, today I'm finally starting my first round of warm weather seeds, and these are technically the first seeds I'm starting inside for my garden. I did start some of the seeds for Me TV, which I still have. I don't know if I'm going to hold on to them until May or what I'm going to do, but I don't have the heart to just get rid of them. Now, although I have already sown some cool weather crops, I just prefer to sow those directly outside. It's easier, and the root vegetables prefer that anyways. So it's really my warm season annuals that I start indoors. And for me, that's going to be mostly flowers. Again, with a smaller garden, if I'm only getting like 1, 2, or 3 of a certain plant, it's a lot easier time-wise, and honestly, a lot of the times it can be cheaper to just go and get a transplant from a garden center and plant that in the garden once you factor in the cost of like all the seed starting equipment. But I'm going to start my Gomphrena seeds today, and if you're in the Chicago area, really around like mid-March is a good time to start your seeds. A lot of these I won't even start till April. One of the hardest things with following other gardeners in other growing zones that are warmer than mine online is that I get the urge to start seeds sooner than I really should. But my goal and what I recommend is I don't want to have a bunch of giant plants in here because I started them out way too early and then have to worry about taking care of them. What I like to do is start my seeds and try to time it so that I actually don't have to pot them up from this size here, although I think I am gonna have to pot up some of my seedlings. So today I'm just doing Gomphrena, which I have 9 varieties of. It's the most I have ever grown. Gomphrena are one of my favorite flowers in general, but also for small gardens because they are so productive. I'm also somebody who loves drying flowers, and they are fantastic to dry. They look almost identical to how they look when they're growing in the garden, and they last a really long time if you are using them in bouquets. So for me, they're one of my favorite plants. That's why I'm growing more varieties than I've ever grown before. Do I have enough room for all of these that I'm going to start today? Absolutely not. So I'm going to talk through what I use to start my seeds first. Then I'll go through the Gomphrena varieties, which are currently soaking on the table that you can't see, but I'll go through them and all the varieties that I'm going to try this year. But ever since I really started gardening 2018, 2019, I've always used these Jiffy peat pellet greenhouses. I got them just because that's what was available at Home Depot, and I really like the simplicity of them because everything you need to start your seeds comes in here except for light, water, and the actual seeds. But the growing medium is in here. You make a little greenhouse so that your seeds can germinate a little bit faster. I really like these, and the best part is, so this one here is a new one, obviously, because it has the wrapping still on it, but once I plant these peat pellets out into the garden, I can just buy more peat pellets and then reuse this greenhouse. I can also use this greenhouse for propagating my houseplants, like my string of hearts. So I've done that a few times, so I get a lot of use out of this. And for me, especially when I was just starting off gardening, it's a lot easier to use something like this than have to worry about getting my seed starting trays, getting the specific soil that I'm gonna need, the mess of kind of putting that all together. So for me, this is just what I prefer, and I've stuck with it ever since. I specifically like the ones for tomatoes and vegetables. There is one, I don't know if it's called for flowers. It's the same size greenhouse, but there's 72 pellets instead of 36. These are twice the size of the flower ones, which if they're larger, it again allows more growing time for the seedlings before I would need to pot them up. So I'm definitely using this. I love these. What I got also, so when I was going to start the seeds from Me TV, I wanted to get just a smaller greenhouse, and I found this one, I think, on Amazon. There's 34 in here. They are the smaller version, but also this greenhouse is just, not that it's super complicated, but it's just slightly more complicated than this, so I don't love this as much. But since I have it, I'm going to use it. So within these 2 pellets, I'm going to fill them both with Gomphrena. This one has 36, this one has 34, even though the cells are smaller. So it's 70 total peat pellets. I have 9 varieties, so that's about 7 of each if I was going to split them all evenly. But based on where I'm going to grow them, there's some that I know I'll need fewer of, and there's some that I think I'll want more of. So I'm probably not going to do just a straight 77777 of all of the 9 varieties. So what I'm going to do now is get these set up because you do have to fill them with water and wait for the peat pellets to absorb the water before you start planting. So we'll get these set up. I'll kind of go through the 2 different processes for each of these, and then I'll go through the Gomphrena that I'm growing, and I'll probably also put in some videos from the past season so you can see where I grow it and how it looks, because obviously right now you're just getting to looking at seeds, not any Gomphrena plants. Let's start with the one I like more, just because again, it's not like it's a super long, complicated process for the other one. I just think it could have been simpler, like this one is. So as I'm completely tearing this label apart, so the instructions are on here in this section, 4 easy steps. So the first thing you do is place pellets in the watertight tray, which are already in there. Add 1.5 inches of warm water, drain the excess water. Oh, let me grab something really quick. So when I made the video about all of my seed starting equipment, I did mention that one of the things I don't like as much is dumping these out because the trays aren't super sturdy. They are a bit flimsy, especially when they're filled with water. And someone said to get a turkey baster to suck the water out. So that's what I did. So thank you. It was someone on a comment on one of my videos. I think it was that video. Thank you so much. I'm excited to do this year. It's gonna make it a lot easier and less messy because every year in the past, I have spilled water. So then we let them expand. They'll expand to about 2 to 2.5 inches tall. Then you add the seeds, and that's it. You put the cover on and wait for them to germinate. So you see how easy that is. Like, I just have to pour water in here. So let me take the lid off and set that here. This is a plant vitamin for seedlings, and it also comes with labels. So I love that. It comes with everything I need. So toss that over there. Let's move this onto the floor. And then let's go through this one. So this one again is smaller pellets and a smaller container overall. But this one actually comes with a wicking mat. So unlike this one where the pellets themselves are sitting in the water, once you have your seedlings planted, the water is underneath them. They're lifted up a little bit, and then it's wicking onto this mat. So with this one, you have to take out the pellets, set them just over there for now. Then you take this, which comes in the bottom of the tray, and you align, so you see there's little nubs in there, you align the nubs on this with the nubs on that. So let's get that in there, and that's what just lifts the peat pellets off of the bottom of the tray here. Then you take this wicking mat and you place it inside, and then you have to tuck the edges underneath because they have to touch the water in order to wick it up for the peat pellets. So you have to tuck that in there, and then you can place the peat pellets back in here. Now again, is this super complicated? No. But I'm a person that likes as few steps as possible, so that's why I still prefer this tray compared to this tray. My seedlings did fine though. Like, they started fine. I did have to pop them up because they outgrew these peat pellets much faster than those peat pellets. But in general, it's like, if I can do fewer steps, I'd rather take that option. But they both work. So now what I need to do is add warm water to both of these and then just wait for them to expand. So I'll add the warm water now, and then we'll go over the different Gomphrena varieties I'm gonna grow. I've actually had this pitcher sitting out from watering my houseplants, so I'm just gonna fill this one first. I'm gonna estimate I might need about 4 to 5 pitchers of water to get these filled. And then sometimes if the peat pellet hasn't fully expanded, I'll just take it out and put it like directly in a pitcher of water until it expands on its own. It usually happens with a couple of them in each of the trays that I've used before. So the first one was a half pitcher. Let's see if a full pitcher now gets us to where we need to be with that 1.5 inches of water. And I think for the small one, that's gonna work out perfectly. I'm gonna go ahead and let this one sit now, and then we'll fill this one up. First pitcher in here, and this is just going right on top of everything. So again, these pellets in this tray aren't elevated, so the water just goes directly into where they are sitting. And pitcher number 2. And this is the exact same way you're gonna water once your seedlings are in there and growing. So this one, you water until you hit like the underside of the reservoir, and then it's going to soak in. This one, you just pour water directly in there, and then I'll wait until it seems like a lot of the moisture has been absorbed, and then anything remaining, that's what I dump out, which I'm gonna do with the baster this time instead of trying to balance and carry the tray over to the sink. Or I think sometimes I've just like done it out onto the deck as well. So I think that's good. So a little bit under 2 pitchers. I'm gonna check the time and we'll see how long it takes for them to expand. Shouldn't be more than like 10 minutes. And now let me show you all of my Gomphrena varieties. I think there are 4 varieties that are completely new to me this year. So I have had all of my Gomphrena seeds soaking for about 24 hours. The first 2 years I grew Gomphrena, I never soaked them because the seed packet didn't say to. In general, they do take slightly longer to germinate and slightly longer to grow compared to the other annual flowers that I start. And then Erin from Impatient Gardener on Instagram told me to try soaking the seeds. So I did that for the first time last year, and it definitely sped up the germination. This year, when I bought some of the seeds from Baker's Creek, that's the first time I've had a seed packet that actually said to soak for 24 to 48 hours. The other seed packets don't, so I don't know if it's like a brand thing or what, but I've always found that pre-soaking them does definitely speed up the germination for Gomphrena. So now, let me show you the ones that I'm gonna grow. So we have 9 varieties here, soaking in various vessels. First 2, I think I'm the most excited for. Now, obviously, not all of them have photos. The ones that don't, I will throw some photos up so you can see what they look like. On the left is QAS Salmon, and then QAS Rose on the right. Those I'm going to start more of. So like I said, I'm going to start fewer of some, more of others. I think I want more of these, and these are going to go on the back deck. Then I have the 3 from Baker Creek, which is again the only ones that said to soak them. First is Strawberry Fields. You can obviously see what these are going to look like. Strawberry Fields I've grown before. I didn't last year, and I really missed not having the pop of red from my Gomphrena, so I added it back this year. Then I have 2 more new varieties to me, which is the Gomphrena Snow White and the Gomphrena Lavender Lady. As I'm going through this, if there are Gomphrena varieties that I'm not showing you, let me know, because my goal is to grow all of them at some point. Then over here are kind of my tried and true. I started getting Gomphrena from Johnny's Seed. It's kind of my go-to at first. I'll get all the varieties they have and order those, and then start to look at other websites for additional colors. But these I've all grown before. So the first one here is the Raspberry Cream. It's a really pretty, like not super light pink. QIS pink is very light. This is more of a, well, a raspberry cream colored, but it's more of the pink that I was hoping for. Then we have the Audrey Purple Red. This is a very vibrant purpley red color. I love it compared to QIS Purple, which again was kind of lighter than I'd hoped for, and it had a little bit of white on it. These are like a more true vibrant purple. Then we have what I think is my favorite color I've grown. We'll see how the new ones compare, is QIS Carmine. I just love that hot pink color. It's one of my favorite colors of flowers just in general. So, and I think this was my original Gomphrena, the very first Gomphrena I ever grew. And then last, I have my QIS Orange, which is a very traditional brightly colored orange. I like in my garden the bright colors on the front, the calming colors on the back. So I think of these, Raspberry Cream, Lavender Lady, Snow White, and then the Salmon and the Rose are gonna go on the back deck. Everything else will go in the front. And I have one specific raised bed that I've grown Gomphrena in every single year, so it's just become my Gomphrena bed. I also grow them in, I've grown them in 8-inch pots, which they did well enough. I think that's probably like slightly smaller than they wanted, but it worked. I've also grown them in 12-inch pots. I always cut my spacing down. In fact, let me see what the spacing is. The recommendation is 6 to 8 inches apart. I probably go 4 to 5. I don't think I go any smaller than that. Maybe I have, but about 4 to 5 inches, and that just creates a really full look. These are one of the lowest maintenance flowers. I really don't have issues with pests on them. I don't think I ever have. Never any issues with diseases, no powdery mildew or anything like that. I know as I'm speaking this out loud, it means it's going to happen this year, but in general, very, very low maintenance flowers. They do bloom a little bit later, maybe like mid to late July they start flowering, but they last really long into the season. And because they dry so well, someone this early winter mentioned to me that they left some of their Gomphrena out in the garden as visual interest, and I think that'd be really pretty to do with especially the red Gomphrena for like a Christmassy look, assuming it holds its color. I don't really know how it's gonna hold its color. Actually, let me show you really quick what they look like dried. So I have here, in this basket, I have the carmine up front, QIS orange, and then this is the Audrey purple red, and then everything else in here is status. So those are the three colors, one second. Those are the three colors that I still have of the ones that I dried. I mean, they're maybe slightly less vibrant than they were in the garden. You can see how vibrant the colors still are. So they hold those colors really well, which is why I love them so much. This larger Jiffy pellet pack is expanded and is ready to be planted. So I'm using two things to plant with. I have a paintbrush here, which has come in much more handy than I ever thought it would for gardening. So I use it for planting my seeds. I use it for like hand pollinating. And then I also use it for propagations and rooting cuttings into the soil with houseplants. So I'm just gonna go through here, and what I do is you kind of wanna break up this top layer here, and then you make a little hole. And that's it. And then I do also have a towel, because when I go to get the seeds out, my fingers get wet, and I find that when you have damp fingers and you're touching seeds, they often stick. So I kind of like to just dry occasionally in between all the seeds that I'm planting. So I'm going to start with my QAS salmon and my QAS rose. I think I'm going to do 8 of each of these. And then also I need my tags. So that's another thing. This one came with tags, and oh, I didn't put this in. I was supposed to mix this in with the water. I'll mix it in with the first like watering of my seedlings. So I will hold on to this, but this one doesn't come with that. So that's just another small thing that leads me to liking this one a little bit more. So let's go ahead and get these planted. Now there is water in here. I'm just gonna take my pitcher and slowly and carefully dump out the water, trying to block the seeds from falling out. These are pretty small seeds. I mean, I've planted smaller, but they're definitely on the smaller side of the flower seeds that I plant. Now, typically, the smaller the seed, the less deep it wants to be buried. These only want to be buried about 1/8 of an inch deep. So I'm not even going to really go down that far in here. But what I like to do, so I have 8 of these I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of get all 8 of these cells ready. And then I'll make my 1/8 of an inch. Again, very, very shallow holes in here. And then we are ready for planting. So these are new seeds, so germination should be pretty good. I'm still gonna plant 2 seeds per pellet just to increase the chances of germination. I might do 3 if it were seeds that were a little bit older, like for example the peas. Well, maybe I only did 2 of the peas. But if I have some flower seeds that are like 2 or 3 years old, then I might do 3 seeds per pellet. Also, you want to make sure you're not soaking more than you intend to plant, or at least not a lot more, because you don't want to soak them and then not use them and then like dry them and re-soak them. So make sure that you're soaking the amount that you want to actually plant. That is good to go. That's my first seeds that I'm starting inside. I'm really excited. So now I'm just going to very lightly cover them back up. Some seeds do like to be surface sown, so they don't want to be covered at all. Maybe just like a sprinkle of soil or some vermiculite on them. I am going to add vermiculite at the end, but we'll do that once I get everything planted. Now, before I move on, I'm going to take a label and label these seeds. So this is salmon. Now I should be able to remember that this whole tray is Gomphrena, but I'm going to write Gomphrena at least on the first label here. But usually if I do like 1 tray of 1 type of plant, that's pretty easy. And then I'm just going to stick the label right in one of those cells. So then we'll do 8 of the rows next. And I do still have some seeds in here, so let's move these out of the way. And I'm just gonna go through the same process. So I'll kind of speed through this because it can get pretty repetitive, but that's essentially what I do to get all these seeds planted. Gomphrena seedlings are planted and I cannot wait for germination. So in the larger peat pellet pack, I have 4 of the orange. So the brighter colors I know are just going to go in the front raised bed, so I don't need as many. So I have 4 orange. I did 8 lavender lady, 8 snow white, 8 rose, 8 of the salmon. And then in this pack, I did 5 of the strawberry, 6 of the Audrey purple red, 6 raspberry cream, and then 17 of the carmine. I will not be planting 17 of the carmine, so I will definitely give those away when the time comes. But everything is now planted. The last step is putting vermiculite on top of them. So I think I first learned this from Garden Answer, but by putting vermiculite on the top of the soil, it's supposed to prevent the fungus that cause dampening off, which will kill your seedlings. I've never not done it. I've never had issues with dampening off, but I've also never not put vermiculite on. So I don't know for sure that it is the vermiculite, but since it hasn't happened, I'm gonna keep doing what I've been doing. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some of this on top of everything, and then I'll show you kind of where I'm gonna put these to wait for germination. So just a little sprinkle across the top here, and not too much. I think I've used this same bag, like this is probably the 3rd year that I've had this same bag, so it's not like it takes a lot. Now I'm gonna cover with the domes. I'm gonna leave on until they germinate, and I'll show you where I'm gonna place these while I wait for germination. Now, I know a lot of people use heat mats because the heat can help speed up the germination. I have never had heat mats. I don't know the difference then between like how long it takes to germinate, but I've never had an issue with my plants germinating eventually. And because heat mats aren't something I would use for a lot of the time, I feel like I'd maybe use them for like 2 months and then have to store them somewhere for the rest of the 10 months of the year. So if I don't absolutely need it, or if it didn't make a huge difference, I mean, now maybe if I got them and saw the difference, I'd want them. But for me, it's not really something I feel like I've missed. So I don't want to spend the money on like 10 heat mats and then again storing them through the rest of the year. I'm just fine not doing that. But I do put these in a bathroom, which is kind of the warmest part on this floor. So let me move these over there and then I will show you where they are. They're now on the bathroom counter up here, and this is where they will stay until they germinate. So they don't need light or anything, so I'm gonna keep the lights off, but this is a relatively warm area of the house. And of course, I'll probably be checking like every 6 hours just to see when they start to sprout. But once I have most of the cells germinated is when the domes will come off, and then I will take them over to my grow lights. These are the seeds I started for Me TV. Again, don't know what I'm gonna end up doing with these, but they'll just go under these grow lights once they are mostly all sprouted, and that's where they'll stay until they're warm enough to move outside. So that's everything for today's video. I'm excited to have all of my Gomphrena seeds sown for this season. I probably won't start my next round until 2 weeks from now, and then everything else will be sown in April. Again, I know it's exciting to start, but if you can hold off so that you're not working with a bunch of giant plants trying to find spots for them. When I first started my deck garden in 2019 at our last place, I started tomatoes inside in early March, and by the time they were ready to go outside, they were huge, and I had like 20, even though I only had space for 3. And keeping them alive was a bit of a pain. So I try to avoid that now. But I'll keep you updated on how they do. I'll obviously show you as I get the rest of my seeds started. that's gonna be everything for this video. So I will see you in the next one. Bye.